Welcome to the Galen Trombley Show. You can find me on Facebook at Galen Trombley, on Instagram at Galen Trombley, and on YouTube at Galen Trombley. Spelling GaelanTrombley. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Galen Trombley Show. Beautiful. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 197 of the Galen Trombley Show. I was just telling our guests we are a little bit behind. I hope to up the frequency of these soon because I've fallen off a little bit, and that's shame on me. But my guest today, this is a very international episode. They're now domestic. Met them not too long ago, and they're from the great White North. I don't know how white it is where you guys are from, but probably get snow.
Here. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So not too much farther. Probably similar in the latitude line. But Shea and Annie Brennan, Buick, GMC.
Yes.
You got it.
And you guys are Irish. We'll get into that. But you're not actually from Ireland?
No, our ancestors would be, but
because you both sound like you're from Ireland. It's like you have a brogue. You have where you're from.
The Irishness.
You have a Canadian brogue. So thank you for coming, both of you.
Thanks for having us.
So if people do not know you, who are you guys? How'd you get to Plattsburgh? And how's Canada? Give us all the details.
I'll take that one. So we are the Brennans, husband and wife. We moved here from Woodstock, New Brunswick. We are from New Brunswick, so that is East Coast Canada. The town we just left is 5 minutes from Holton, Maine. So we always lived right along the border.
Oh.
And yes. And so I grew up in the car business. And when Shea started in 2011 at the same dealership, that is also when we started dating. And then so as time went on, we knew that we wanted to eventually get our own dealership, have our own store. And we're very tight-knit Irish Catholic families. So we have a lot of family. Always thought we'd stay in Atlantic Canada. Years went on, and there wasn't really much happening as far as dealerships becoming available. So we were asked if we would ever consider the States, and that's when we heard about Plattsburgh, New York.
So when someone says, are you interested in buying in the States, is that your dealership was asking you that?
So dealerships, usually you go through a broker.
Okay.
So you just kind of let the broker that if a store were to come up, that you would be interested.
And what was like the radius that you gave this, like the broker? Was it close
kind of New England states plus upstate New York?
Okay.
Yeah.
So upstate New York was kind of like the little like the side, like we'll expand out there if needed.
Yeah.
Was the idea to stay in Canada though?
That was the original idea
plan,
to stay in Atlantic Canada, because really you only think of Canada, and then there's Atlantic Canada where we're from, where all our family is. Mind you can still move 8 hours away and still be in Atlantic Canada. And then there's Ontario, which we didn't really want to move to. And then there's Western Canada, which you'd be flying back and forth to get home.
I think a lot of people, like myself included, end up kind of growing up in their own little bubble. And so I think that's why we only just thought that we'd stay in Atlantic Canada. And even myself, I'm guilty of, like, when you think of upstate New York,
that was New York City to us.
Yeah, I didn't think of it being so close to, Montreal or Canada. And so, but I always thought for some reason of just Vermont under Montreal, but not New York. So when, we're explaining to friends where we moved to, they're the same. Like they don't realize how close.
Did you tell them they're Montreal's U.S. suburb?
Yes.
Again, Gary Douglas.
The Plattsburgh.
That's the slogan.
Airport website, Montreal's U.S. airport. Yeah.
Yeah.
So New York obviously wasn't on the radar, but you ended up deciding to, like, was this one of the first places you checked out for dealerships?
Yes. So there was a few that would kind of come up around Atlantic Canada, and some of it was kind of remote areas that we weren't too excited to leave. And then Shea actually came home. Our youngest was about 6 months old at the time.
Yeah.
And Shea came home from work that night, and he goes, hey, there's stores that popped up in the States. And my face just went white, and I was a little nauseous thinking of the idea of moving to a new country. And then anyway, so I was just like, look, I got to get the kids to bed. You go back to work and we'll like figure it out later. And then so we started Googling the area, and you see the population size, and
that was actually the first opportunity that she didn't say no to right away. There's a
Shut
couple
down right away, yeah.
There's a couple other ones that they weren't. They were a little off the beaten path. So
yeah.
Anyways, it started out with not a no, so it was.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's yeah.
Yeah,
I know. Like I said, I got a wife, so that's usually when you get anything that's not a no, you're like, okay, we got a chance. You're saying there's a chance. So
we got room.
So now you guys were from the population you said was low though, right? Or
yeah. So
small?
the town that we moved from, Woodstock, New Brunswick, is about 5,500 people. Mm-hmm. The trade area that our dealership in was that the dealership was in was about 30,000, and then so like Plattsburgh with the city and the town. The trade area, it's almost 80,000. So to us, that was
with the surrounding area.
That
I think,
was
the county's about
very
80.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the town that I grew up in is Grand Falls, New Brunswick. So we actually grew up about 40 minutes apart. Mm-hmm. Grand Falls is so in New Brunswick, northern New Brunswick is very French. Grand Falls is officially bilingual, so it's also known as Ganso. So that's
the
town,
French?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So and when you're driving on the highway, you'll see Grand Falls, Ganso. So it's a bilingual town. And then as soon as you go, like you can go 10 minutes north and it's pure French. You can go 10 minutes south and it's pure English. Like that somehow is literally the cutoff.
And that's your hometown.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
Grand Falls. And then so after I graduated, so that's where my father had Chevrolet dealership. And then kind of right before I graduated high school, he took on another Chev dealership in Woodstock, New Brunswick, which is the one that we both worked at. So my family moved an hour south. And that was, the big move because my family that was the same town that my father and grandfather grew up in. So that was
the bilingual
a big
town.
deal. Yes.
And then they completely sold that one?
Eventually, yeah. It kind of happened around like 08, 09 when GM kind of got rid of Pontiac and all that stuff.
So my first car was a Pontiac G6.
Nice.
I always had this song. Was it?
Oh, yeah, like a
G6.
G6, yeah.
Like no, it's a plane. I'm like, that makes much more sense.
Play
I
it
don't
in
think
the
he's
car
flying
anyway.
in a Pontiac G6. But yeah, so when you move south, now this is the place that's 5 minutes above Maine?
Yes, right beside it. Yeah,
Or
Woodstock.
beside?
Yeah. And it was 20 minutes. So I'm from Grand Falls. You go 40 minutes south, then you get to Bath, New Brunswick. That's where Shea grew up.
Okay.
And then another 20 minutes, you get to Woodstock, which is the town that we just left.
Can you speak French?
Yes.
Can you speak French?
No.
Okay. I actually
He
had
understands some of it.
I was going to guess. I'm like, he's from the English side of that bilingual. So then you're down in is this a bigger town than you grew up?
Grand Falls was like 5,000 people. Bath is about 500. And then Woodstock's 5,500. Yeah. So that's why when we came here, we were so excited because we were like, oh my gosh, city life. It's
That's
so
so
urban
funny.
to us. And then you hear
So
everyone be like, oh,
wild.
it's such a small town here. But it does have that small town feel, which we love.
Yeah.
So what was the thing that attracted you most to Plattsburgh?
Oh.
So was it just
many.
purely the job opportunity, or was more like area?
Yeah, I
That
think when
was-
we
yeah.
first looked at it, we wanted to go to a bigger area than we were in. And I think we have a unique opportunity where both of us work in the business. And so we thought that was to our advantage, I guess. And then when we started looking at the area, obviously it's surrounded by mountains and lake, and
It's beautiful.
and beautiful area, and lots stuff close by. You get you can cross the ferry and you're in Burlington pretty in a small amount of time. Then you're Montreal and Albany and
Lake Placid.
yeah, Lake Placid's right there. Yeah, so there's
Lots
lots
to do.
around, and I think we both grew up pretty active, and I love skiing, and so with the ski hills around, it was kind of a no-brainer once we came and visited the place and really fell in love with it.
So have you guys been able to get out and enjoy the outdoors here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Our Sundays are, mind you haven't skied yet.
No, this past winter was
We had a
pretty
busy
busy,
winter.
but this coming winter
Your
we'll be able
parents
to a little
came.
bit.
Your dad skied Whiteface. But we've done Lake Placid. Montreal, we've only got to the airport, I suppose, for Canada side. We got to Burlington, Tupper Lake,
Saranac Lake.
Saranac Lake.
Tupper?
We did the Wild Center with the kids.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
that
thought that was
good time.
awesome. That was fun. We did St. Albans. We went to the Maple Festival.
Yeah.
And then we're learning like Rouse's Point and Jay and Keene and Champlain and Shazy and West Shazy.
Yep.
And so we're trying to learn all the little areas. Au Sable Forks.
Yeah. Oh, the Forks?
Two places.
The Forks? Go
And
to 20 Main.
Saranac and Saranac
A real good time
Lake.
up there.
Yeah.
No, so I'm from Shazy, so that's
Okay.
like my
Nice.
my hometown, and now I live in Morrisonville. My
Okay.
wife's from Morrisonville, so she got me southwest by a little bit. So I moved south too. But have you guys ever been to Montreal before?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Not often. You more than I.
Yeah, just growing up, in full times for a hockey game or something like that. But
And what's the distance to Montreal?
it would have been
Kilometers or miles? I don't know either.
Let's go by hours.
It's been
We'll go
getting
by hours, yeah.
it's been getting faster over the years with
7?
the they've been expanding the 4-lane highway as it gets to the
Like the east-west.
where Quebec meets New Brunswick kind of. So it's probably it's basically like 7 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a hike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I used to always think it was so far. There was one time your cousin had a hockey game in Montreal and we were going to drive to it. And I thought that was like the longest road trip I would ever be on in my life. And now we do it all the time.
That's going to be the regular
I was
now.
gonna say, so what is it to here? Like 8 hours, maybe?
Yeah,
Distance?
7.5, a little
If you
over
really
7
push it,
without
yeah.
the kids. With the kids, it's 8.
Yeah. Oh, understandable. So, what's the biggest city where you were originally from?
The capital would have been the capital of New Brunswick is Fredericton. So
Okay.
that would have been an hour from Woodstock, where we moved from.
See real quick. I should know this.
I think the surrounding area is probably like 120,000. I'm guessing, like with the city and the surrounding area of Fredericton.
So New Brunswick
58,000 people
was in the capital.
is Fredericton.
Is the
yeah.
city, but I think the
Yes.
surrounding area is like
So that
Maybe
city,
100,000?
yeah,
yeah.
100, 120. Yeah.
and that city would have been an hour south of where we were.
An hour south.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it's
because
still,
New Brunswick kind of climbs like Maine, right?
Yes.
So even though you're there, it would be keep going south.
Yeah, you still got to
So
go
you weren't
south.
really in this. Because I always think like southern, like we think like Quebec, and you're like 5 minutes from New York. Well, you're at the very bottom of Quebec. That's
Right.
Right.
But I always forget, kind of as you guys were talking about with Montreal or Vermont and New York,
Yeah.
like just the geography going up. Because Maine's very high up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like when you actually climb up, but like when you look at a map, like yeah, Maine's east. But I'm like, no, Maine's like northeast.
It
Yeah.
really follows New Brunswick. Like the top of Maine, I believe, is the top of New Brunswick.
Yeah. You can go from like St. John, which was 2 hours. So you have like 3 hours of driving in New Brunswick. That's all along Maine.
Is St. John in New Brunswick?
Yes.
There's a St. John, New Brunswick, and then there's a St. John's,
Plural.
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland.
Okay, so Newfoundland's the one I'm thinking of because that's the one really far right.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the Rock they call
Yeah,
it.
the Rock. We have Newfoundland and Labrador. So Labrador's attached to land. Newfoundland's an island.
So when we-
Beautiful place.
I remember flying to when I was a kid. We flew to Ireland, and when we did it, it was St. John, and I was like, I can't believe we're still over Canada right now because you just kept flying and flying. And
Yeah.
it's like we were about maybe only a third of the way through the trip, but I'm like, what is this new St. John's, whatever? So,
They used to have direct flights from St. John's to Dublin.
It's
which
funny.
must have been
Which
like
is
a 3-hour flight,
Yeah.
depending on
Right
which way
there.
the Gulf Stream was going. Yeah.
Right.
It's funny. Like New Brunswick's kind of the forgotten child of the
Or the drive-through
of
province.
the East Coast. They call it the drive-through province. So everyone, here we're still part of New England, right?
No.
Up in this
No.
corner, not really,
No.
or the
No,
Northeast, I guess they
literally
call
don't
it. But
consider- like it's
The
funny
North
because like our
Country.
news, like I watch like NBC all the time. Like NBC is technically in New England, but Vermont is New England.
New Vermont
Right.
is right.
Yeah. It's cut
So
off.
and I think everything like Connecticut I think is New England. Basically everything east of New York.
Of New York.
Okay.
Like New Jersey's not either. So like
Right.
New York, New Jersey, separate.
Massachusetts?
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time.
So kind of like there's the New England here in Canada. There's on the East Coast they have the Atlantic provinces, which is New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, and Newfoundland. So the New Brunswick is, I guess it's called some people call it the drive-through province, but it is a beautiful province if you get to explore it. It's just that they built the highway so you
Lot
don't
of
really go near
trees.
you don't really go near any of the scenic sites or the city, so you can kind
Is
of
there
breeze
mountains
right through.
and stuff there? Or is it pretty flat?
No, there's some mountains. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nothing like these mountains.
Do you know what's crazy is that these are some of the oldest mountains I think in North America, the Adirondacks. Someone could fact check me on that one, but I'm pretty sure Like these are, I don't even know where I'm pointing that way. Those are the white, those are the green
No one
mountains.
can
Sorry,
see
yeah, that
anyway.
way. I'm like, I know, yeah, I know. Like, who am I talking to? So, but I think they're the oldest mountains. So if you go and like actually like testing the rock and stuff, it's like
Okay.
the, like age wise. Because there was something about I think Lake Champlain. Because I remember looking at Isle of Mont. If you go north, like in Chazy,
Right.
Isle of Mont's right there. And I think that the water from Isle of Mont was like North Africa at one point, like when they went back
Wow.
and detailed the fossils, like just through like continental drift, which was kind of cool. But yeah, so the Adirondacks, and the other thing with the Adirondacks, they're massive. So there's this, if you Google like national parks that could fit inside the Adirondack
I
Park,
saw an image of that.
it's incredible how many can fit inside. Like there's probably like 7 or 8 fairly well known, like the Yosemite, Yellowstone, Glacier. Is it Glacier? I think it's Glacier. There's a handful that can fit
Wow.
inside the Adirondacks with like a ton of room to spare.
It's amazing.
Not all of them, but there's quite a bit. At least the ones that Grand Canyon I think's in there.
Yeah.
Which
I saw that on Instagram.
yeah, we take
Yeah.
it for granted because we're just like it's right there, but it's a massive national.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's not even a national park, just I guess a state park. They don't, which is weird why it's not a national park, but it's all good.
Like it'd be in New Brunswick. It'd be the mountains. It's the end of the Appalachian mountain range. So the Appalachian Trail doesn't go there. That's for sure. But I think a lot of people would probably be familiar with Mount Katahdin in Maine. Maybe I don't know.
Is that in Acadia or Arcadia? Is Arcadia
It
national
is
park?
Acadia National Park. That would be in it, right?
Yeah.
Like Bar Harbor.
That's
yeah.
where I think so. Anyways, yeah,
We're gonna say maybe.
yeah.
Because you guys are close to Bar Harbor, right? Maybe
Yeah.
an hour or
Yeah.
two?
3
Couple
hours.
hours, 2
Yeah.
2 hours from Bangor. So whatever Bar Harbor is from Bangor.
So how often do you go to the States from there? Was that quite often?
We used to go.
It depended on the dollar growing up. Like
Yeah.
it depended
Yeah.
on where
Yeah.
the dollar was. It was frequent. People would, since we lived kind of on the border, it was frequent. People would go over, get gas and milk and chicken. And
Well, when I was a kid, I used to go to Montreal Expos games all the time. Like I love
Yeah.
Montreal Expos, and which was funny was it had the opposite effect. So when the dollar got like weaker, the Canadian dollar got stronger. Like the actual attendance at Montreal started to dip, which was crazy because the dollar was better. But like I feel like people weren't going up as much because they're like, why would I go to a baseball game? Because now I got to pay $30 for a ticket
Right.
versus like 10. So it was pretty wild though when you think about like crossing the border. But I haven't been to Montreal since 2019, just with the
Wow.
border closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I have young kids, so it's like, yeah, as you guys know, it's
much
tough to travel.
paperwork.
Yeah, I think we all have our Nexus pass, but it's still the idea of trying to get kids up to Canada, which I'm like, there's no reason to bring little kids, like in our eyes, the little kids
Right.
to Canada. Me and my wife might maybe we'll sneak up there at some point, but Montreal's great.
everyone kind of called it like it was. I guess the slang for it was like people were saying, "I'm going over cross."
Yeah,
That meant
go
you're
over across.
Going over cross. That means
Where you're from.
Yeah, that
Going
means
to
you're
the
going over to the
States.
States. Going
Yeah.
over cross.
Going over cross.
Hopping the border?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of them would just go for like an hour or so.
Yeah.
We would do like driving the coast to the east coast of Maine's beautiful, or you
Oh,
could take
Maine's
drive
gorgeous.
to Bangor and take the train to Boston. So ironically, whether we're in New Brunswick or Plattsburgh, we're still the same distance from Boston.
Boston.
Didn't save too much time there.
Did you guys do you go there a lot or try to?
No.
Boston's-
We've
I
been
love
quite a
Boston.
few times.
A few
but it
times,
wasn't
yeah. We
often,
would.
but-
We'd have, if we did go, we'd try to drive to Portland, and we jump on the train. It takes you right into the garden, as they'd say there.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. So are you a Bruins fan or a Montreal Canadian fan?
Neither.
He's a
Toronto
Leafs
Maple Leafs.
fan.
Really?
Yeah, they. I guess in New Brunswick, most people are either Habs,
So you're
Leafs,
born blue or
Leafs or
red.
Brewer, and so.
So there are people up there that like the Bruins?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
Big
'Cause,
time.
Like, I mean, it's basically here it's Bruins and Canadians. Like,
Yeah.
Through and through all the way. But I don't really follow much hockey, but if I had to pick, like I like both teams. I'm kind of like the Yankees and Red Sox. Like if I were to play in the World Series.
Who
but-
likes the Yankees and the Red Sox?
No, this is why. I'm an Expos fan. Okay. I'm not, and the Expos have not been a team since 2004. So we're talking 18 years ago was when they left. I'm still heartbroken. 18 years ago, I've never followed baseball since. Like I literally went cold turkey. Like I watch it. I know the game
Wasn't
and
it
stuff.
90?
94
Four?
strike.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I was a kid, but I hear horror stories of that.
Vladdy was there.
Still feel the pain.
No, Vladdy wasn't there. But you want to know? No,
he was right before that. Or
Vladdy
something.
went in. I think he came in like 99, maybe 98. So, fun fact: got one baseball bat up there, which is on my shelf of trinkets that you guys were looking at before. But that one right there on the second shelf up is signed by Vladimir Guerrero when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame
Nice.
at Cooperstown in 2018. And when I was a kid, I had a bunch. That's my favorite player all time. So I had his autograph a bunch, like when I was a little kid. And then a guy I know, like, I don't know, he's like a merch, he's like a, whatever it's called, autograph dealer type guy. So he had that at the Hall of Fame, and he wrote all the stuff in his own handwriting, like All-Star, blah, blah, blah. So that's the only piece of memorabilia I've ever bought in my life. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm getting that.
Yeah.
It's Vladdy. And then I was actually in Milwaukee about a month ago, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and we went to a Brewers game, which is dope. Good park, but they were playing Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Vladdy Jr.
Vladdy Jr. was on first base, and we were on the first baseline. He was like, I got some pictures. He was like maybe 50 feet from me.
That's awesome.
So, which is cool. Which actually made me feel a little bit more at home.
Selfie with him. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, okay, like I knew your dad, kind of.
We go way back.
We go way back to my big time, big Vladdy guy. But so now that you guys, so I guess I don't even think we talked about it. You guys took over the GMC dealership from the Knight Automotive.
Yes.
So we probably should have prefaced that. So because everybody knows Knight Automotive, that's been around forever. So, and you guys are on Route 3, same building, same location, different sign, which I think I bugged you last time. That finally went up.
Took a while to get it, but we
I noticed
got
it driving down. I'm like, oh, cool. There's a new sign there. So how do you guys like the building, the location? Like, I don't know much about car dealing and car dealerships, but is it a good setup for you
We
guys?
love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Route
think it's the
3's
best spot in town.
Yeah.
It's
Nice and
Consumer
busy.
Square is right around the corner, and
It's very high traffic. It's
Yeah.
probably the busiest, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of all of them.
yeah.
So ironically, one of the things that we looked at when we Google mapped, so you're Google mapping Plattsburgh to kind of see the geography layout and what's close to it. And then we like zoomed in on the dealership and it was like, whoa, Wendy's, whoa, Taco Bell, Chick-fil-A. And then I saw it like at TJ Maxx and Sam's Club, and it was just kind of like sold.
I was going to say, it's
We
like
didn't
a
have many
2-minute
restaurants
walk versus
everywhere.
a 2-hour ride right now.
Yeah. Like,
Moving on up. So now, how does car dealerships, like right now, how do you guys work with, because I know there's some places that like they're not doing test drives. Do you guys do test drives still? Or
Oh, yes.
yes.
Yep.
Now,
Strongly encouraged.
but have you seen some dealers, like I've talked to a couple of people and they're like, we just don't have cars in the lot, or cars in the
Right.
lot are already bought. So like
Right.
you can look at them, but you can't drive them. Is that like a big thing right now?
Yes, that can happen with new cars, especially. Like there might be some on the lot and some are sold waiting for the customer to pick them up or whatever. But you can't drive a car that's already sold to somebody else. But for the most part, there's usually something. We've had pretty good luck getting inventory, so there's usually have something for them to test drive. So I know during COVID, I think every place had different rules. We weren't here for most of it, but every province in Canada or state in the U.S. probably had their own different rules as far as
Right.
test drives or being.
Well, I think it's more based on supply. Like people just can't get the cars on the lot for people to even drive. So
Yeah,
coming in like,
that's a
oh,
big
can I
thing.
look at a car? Like, well, no, like here's basically what they look like, and that's what it
Yes.
looks like, but you can't actually
Show
drive
me
it.
your phone.
Yeah, which is crazy because
Yeah.
like
There's definitely a couple models that are like very, very sought after more than others and hard to get. And so, if there's one or two of those models the customer's looking for, it can be tough to find one to test drive. But for the most part, we generally have something on the lot for them. So,
I guess for you guys, like, is there much of a difference between Canada and U.S. for car dealerships? Is there like rules, regulations, like?
There's a lot
Customs.
of like New York State regulations.
Yeah.
That
Let's
stuff
say
is
welcome to New York.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, we were, I was actually, so in car dealerships, they call them 20 groups. So it's performance groups. So it's usually 20 dealers. But it's kind of just a group and you have your composite book and it just shows, whatever numbers and ratios you want to go off of, but that's kind of how you meet with other dealers, share your best practices and learn things. So I, in 2018, it was a General Motors women's only group. And so we went in and there were only 3 of us Canadians and the rest were all US dealers. So we kind of had, not knowing we were going to end up in the US, kind of learned, there's a lot of terminology that's much different. So I kind of already learned and knew what some of the differences were going in. But they have like titles very strict here.
Oh,
We
yeah.
don't have titles in Canada. You still have like a registration, but it's not as strict as it is here in the States. But it's like, your processes are still the same. People are
Financing's
still the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Credit is very
Yeah,
different,
credit's
but-
very different in banking.
In the
That
US,
part's
you
been-
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easier or more difficult?
Just a little bit more difficult to navigate, I would say. Like there's just a little bit more of a matrix, I would say, to credit ratings and interest rates that customers are going to qualify for, whereas in Canada it's a little bit more black and white, as opposed to, you know, what your credit score is to what you're going to qualify for. But
well, so like the only thing I can compare it to is we do real estate. Like, I mean, obviously we do real estate, but like in New York State, it's like it's what we call an attorney state. So attorneys close real estate here.
Okay.
So there's plenty of places in the United States that are title states, which means basically they close half the time with way less hassle. So anybody that comes here, it's like, hey, you know, like, we're going to close in like 3-4 weeks. I'm like, oh, no. Like, we might be lucky to get the appraisal in like there in 3 to 4 weeks. So, yeah, there is just some stuff that like I wish if like, you know, if you had a magic wand or something, you could wave it and say like, oh, we're a title state, because it would make our process so much more streamlined.
Right.
But it's like it's a state regulation and it's a pain in the butt. But yeah, and anything, New York State is a very regulated state, unfortunately. So yeah, it's not.
We're
fun.
learning.
Yeah,
One thing we noticed with banking, so in Canada you have e-transfers, so it's kind of like
electronic?
so it's kind of like
wiring
Venmo and PayPal, but you just do it as long as someone has an email address or a cell phone. You do it, doesn't matter who they do their banking with, and it just sends the money. And here, I think it was right when we had purchased our house, and then there was a lady who was going to come clean it before we moved in, and she wanted a $50 deposit, and I like could not get $50 to her because I didn't have a PayPal account. I couldn't even download Venmo on my phone at the time because it was a Canadian phone. Couldn't get the app anyway, and I'm messaging the realtor being like, can you just give her $50 and I'll pay you back when we get there? Like, it was, I'm like,
mail it in.
I'm like, it's 2021. I'm like, what is going on?
Well,
so that part was interesting.
That's the thing. Have you noted? I guess that's a good question. So how long have you been in the car industry?
well, you grew up in it.
Yes.
I started in 2011.
Okay. Are you guys both like? How old are you before I give numbers?
32.
Oh, we're all the same age. Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't feel as bad. So you're basically college age at the time, roughly. Our college, university,
Yes.
whatever.
Yep.
Okay. So when you guys went in till now, how much have you seen it change?
Oh man,
Crazy.
big
Yeah.
time. Everything.
Even just like the sales process itself. Like when we started, it was, oh, you don't give price over the phone. Don't give price over the phone. And now it's, you have to be transparent. Like
Yeah.
everything's out there. Digital age. Like we were
Digital,
there when
yeah.
we had a website and started a Facebook page, and
So
it's been crazy.
when did you start your first Facebook page for you? Was this the
I was
dealership or you personally?
for the
as a-
dealership.
Dealership.
Yeah. Like us, I think it was like 07 when everyone kind of got Facebook around that.
Right, but
I
like even in like
like-
2011, there was no real advertising on.
No,
Maybe
2013, I started
Yeah.
the page, and I was doing.
This
I
is
was
so
in
funny.
school at the time, and it was an e-marketing course, and the prof was like, Facebook is just meant for engagement. You use it to engage with the customers. You're not going to sell anything on Facebook. And now it's like,
That aged well.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. It's crazy how
Yeah.
much it's evolved. But even going to meetings, so we have, you have the building's cameras and the alarm system right on your phone, and you just hop on your computer and all your files are there, and you can get into all the software systems. And I'm like, I remember, my father going to meetings, and it's like, you don't see him or hear from him for a week other than the one time that he'd, get on a payphone and call into work to see how things are going. I'm like, it's just crazy how much more advanced it is now, and you can get a lot more done.
Well, yeah. So again, for real estate, I remember like, if you had an offer, which now like even talking about it sounds like it was a joke, but it was real life. Like you would get an offer and like I would have to meet with you. Like, when can you guys meet? Like, when are you off work? Like, where do you want to meet? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then you'd sit down and like actually hand write everything out, have them sign it. If anybody made a mistake, it was like initial the mistake, which might have been me just misspelling something. And then you would have to go bring it to the agent or the office and like hand deliver a contract. I mean, you could call on the phone, but it was like hand deliver a contract. Like, okay, we're good. Can you get it signed? Like, yep. Like, go back, get
Give
your
me 6
contract,
days.
go back. Yeah, exactly. And then it got to the point where you could scan it because people were faxing. I'm like, if you fax a piece of paper more than once, it fades out and you can't
Oh,
read
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So we started to scan. Well, then it was like getting the agents that were, I'll call them seasoned agents, were so used to faxing that they just didn't scan. We just scan it.
Good
It
word,
comes out
seasoned.
perfect. Seasoned. And
So polite.
seasoned. And then it got to the point where we finally had electronic signatures. And now it's like,
Right.
yeah, like, okay, you like at a computer right now, or you're going to be in the next like hour or half
Yeah.
hour, or whatever. It's like, here you go, boom, boom, boom. And the amount of time and efficiency that you have, which doesn't seem crazy, but I mean, like I got into real estate in 2011 also. So it's like you're looking at what, 12, 13 years we've been in the business. It's only changed in that amount of time.
Yeah.
Like Facebook, I think it was the same. I think it was about 2013 when I like opened a Facebook account. I was like, I don't know, like what do I post? And I would post like a stupid photo of like a house that was like, does anybody like this house? Some stock image off of like Getty Images or whatever. And then you start learning like actually how to use it as more of like a connectivity tool.
Yeah.
Like it is engagement, but I mean, you're selling people because people are seeing who you are, like your personality, everything comes through social media, and like you have to be on it. And that's just something I dove on, like I said, almost 10 years ago now, but it's crazy because it's like such a way of life now, but back then it was so like taboo. And people were like, yeah, you're on Facebook, like, oh, you're doing videos? That's goofy. Like, why would you do that? That's stupid. I'm like, I
No,
don't
it's
know.
like, why are you not doing it?
Yeah, nobody else is doing it, so maybe it'll work. But no, it's pretty cool. And do you find that the practices have gotten better amongst like the industry?
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, just transparency is for the best for everyone, and everything's online, so I mean, you can't. Everything's online. So if if your price is out of whack, then no one's gonna knock on your door. So it's definitely and it's good for dealers, and it's good for consumers, because you can be transparent with your trade-in value is worth this because this is what it is, and this is what they're selling for, and we're selling ours for this because this is where the market is, and it's really fair for all.
So when you guys like take in a car and say do you guys sell used cars also?
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you have used cars, like say someone comes in and turns in the car, at the end of the day, you decide what you're actually going to pay for it. I mean, you have stuff numbers you go off of, but like you can tweak that. Obviously try to make more of a margin, or like, hey, just cut a deal to get it done, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes time to sell it, I'm assuming it's like real estate because it's a commodity. So if like it's supply and demand of that car.
Right. Same, you do like your comparison,
Yeah.
this house is for sale in this area. This is what it's at. So it all kind of, the market does still set the price.
Yeah.
Like the vehicle obviously has its own value, but it does depend on the
Does
market.
it have to appraise in your business at all? The car?
Like, do we do appraisals?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's
But
how
you do them. It's not like a third party comes in and does them?
No, yeah,
Correct.
we do them. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So there's like different softwares, and there's lots of different companies out there. So there's
That was another
but there's
change of
there's so much
US to
information. I mean,
Canada.
you can start appraising a vehicle with your phone. It's got a little VIN scanner, and then you get your photos of it, and then you sit down on your computer, and it'll bring up the market. You'll put in what you think it's going to need for reconditioning costs and what you need to make off it for margin, and then and it'll place itself in the market, and there's lots of metrics. And then you always have your plan B, so you can see what what it's going to sell for at the auction, and there's a few different metrics for that. So you always have your exit strategy, I guess I call it. But
so you could take it to the auction, or take it to an auction?
yeah, you can take it to an auction, or these days you can load it up yourself with your phone. Speaking of technology changes on an auction, or auction companies will even come around and they'll take the keys and they'll do
Appraise
their
it on
process,
site.
and the vehicle might even stay right on your lot, and it'll run through a sale online. So
what is your general, I'm cheating because I see it, but I'll let you guys say what your positions, and then what you actually, like what that entails within the dealership. Like what's your roles at the dealership?
Right. So I'm like, good question. So I'm the dealer principal. Shea's a general manager. When we started, Shea's background's in variable, so sales. My background's in fixed, so service and parts.
Okay.
So when we start, those are kind of like our specialties, our fortes. But then obviously once we get into the store, then it's, so right now Shea looks after used. I'll do a lot with accounting, more with service and parts, but it's we both kind of take on a little bit of everything at this point.
And obviously you're the owners too. So
Yes.
that comes with probably a big, it's like an iceberg. When people say you can see like 10% of the iceberg's above water, like that's what people see, and then all the 90%.
I'm like, that's the biggest difference from like the store we were in. So my father was there, one of my brothers was there, my brother-in-law was there, And then, so,
We were there.
we were there. So, we had our own forte, you're dialed in, you got your processes, and that's all you have to focus on. So now it's kind of like, oh, this issue popped up and this issue popped up. So we have like our managers in all departments. So we'll work with the managers to help them. But then there's just a lot of, running a business and making sure you're involved in the community and all of the extra fun stuff.
Which makes your minds never shut off because it's just running
Yeah,
around.
yeah. So I'm like, some nights you get home and it's like you'll talk about work while the kids play. Then there's other nights where you're like, okay, we're not talking about work.
Yeah, someone will be like, did you, someone like send us a quote on something or have to get something done, and you're like, I'll look at it. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even tell you about that yet. Didn't have time to talk yet.
Are you guys able to separate like home from work?
Yeah, we call that church and state.
Oh,
Yeah.
like
So I'm like, thankfully we get along really well. And it's kind of, we both know Shea, Shea's the more outgoing one, and he gets his energy around being around people. Mm-hmm. I love being around people, but after, like, if I'm around people all day, I got to go home and I got to have my silence and just let me sit or clean or do something. But it's, I guess a lot of it is just kind of, when one person says, I don't want to talk about work, then
the kids help,
move
I
on to
think.
the
Like,
next
I think,
topic. Yeah.
if the kids, if we didn't have kids, then it'd probably never shut off. But,
Yeah.
it's definitely easy when you come home. And
we would be living in a trailer behind the dealership if we didn't have kids.
Isn't that so true? Like, I could live on that couch. I'd be like,
Yeah,
as long as,
like, I'm
people didn't
good.
think it was
Just
weird,
let me
I'd
go
be
to
like,
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it's fun, when you come home and then you get to chase them around, and they definitely keep your mind off work pretty good when you're with them. So
Well, I think I'm more like Annie on that. It's like I love doing this, like talking to people, I like going to events, and then it's funny because my wife, she works out of our house, but she does massage therapy, so she does that, but she also takes care of the kids. So like on weekends, like she has clients and stuff that comes through the week, but typically weekends she's like, hey, you want to go do this, this, and this, and I'm like, no, like I just want to I'm home Friday, like I'm locking the door and I'm coming out Monday morning. Like, I just love chilling around my house and not doing anything. And I sometimes take that very aggressively to the point where I'm like, no, literally, I didn't leave my house all weekend, and I loved it. Like you're doing house stuff, hanging out with the kids, but I think I just need that reset, like every weekend or just random times where it's like I just gotta be away from people, like at my desk maybe with the door shut, like nobody coming in the office. I'm like, those are nice days, like
You get stuff done.
And some days I just like talk to people all day long, but yeah, it's like that mental, like you got to check out a little bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're like, you're burning the candle at both ends. So going back to this, like, let's go back a little bit on the start. So you're third generation,
Yes.
and so that was your family. Did you have background, or were you first generation?
first, I grew up on a potato farm. So
ironically, our grandmothers were best friends. And they, so
Really?
both of our grandfathers were potato farmers. And then in, I believe, 1960, my grandfather opened up, would have been Pontiac Buick GMC store then. And he actually sold potatoes out of the dealership. Like that's kind of how it was. And then there were 7 kids in my dad's family, 6 boys and 1 girl. And him and his brother got into the car business. And then, so in Grand Falls, a town that we were in, my uncle stayed at he took over the Pontiac Buick GMC store, and then in 1990, would have been the year I was born, is when my father opened up the Chev store.
Same town?
Yes.
Okay.
So so both General Motors, but 2 separate stores. And then, so my uncle has 2 sons who are also in it, and they have 4 stores, if I can count
4,
right. Yeah. And then my oldest brother has a store in Summerside, PEI. And then my other brother, so he'll take the store that we just left, CYV. My father will never retire. And then I can say it now because it's true, is my sister. She was the Canadian version of a public defender.
Okay.
Her husband is in the car business as well. And then so she just retired and is coming into the car business. So all 4 kids will be in the car business.
Of your kid or your siblings?
Yeah.
So was that always the plan for you to do that?
No. I joked that
See,
I told.
I'm totally like you guys. This is
my-
great. So what was your plan?
I had told, so we, like in my family, as soon as you turned 13, you started washing cars. So every Saturday, snow day, summer break, Christmas break, you were at the dealership, you were working. And so I used to always joke that I hated it. And then, but of course, during, you get to university, and then I went to go work at a Toyota dealership in Moncton, so it would have been 2.5 hours away, working in service, and then kind of kept going to school, and every Saturday and summer break and Christmas break would always come back and keep working. And then so when I finished my bachelor's degree, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go in the car business. Anyway, so I went to do my master's, and then that was like a 1-year accelerated program.
And what was your BA and master's?
So that was Bachelor of Business with like honors in marketing and concentration in finance. I still feel like I know nothing about finance. And then I went and did an MBA in general management. And then, so ironically, all the projects I did during my MBA all related back to the car business. So I was like, oh, wow, maybe I really do enjoy this. And we were dating at the time, and he was working in the car business. So I came back and kind of stuck with it ever since. So I always joked to my father that, the plan B was car business. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So now I joke that who knew plan B meant Brennan.
That's good. That's funny. So starting out young and then obviously getting in, I think, that's
because your father's in real estate too.
It's
right?
almost the same.
Yeah.
And I remember telling him, I'm like, I think I said it in high school one time. I'm like, I'm never doing real estate. He's like, oh yeah, sounds good. Like he never pushed me to do real estate. He knew. Well, and what was funny was the only reason I went into real estate is I used to serve ice cream. So I've had 2 jobs in my life. I served ice cream and I've done real estate since I was 14 years old. So same when we got working papers. That's basically, I guess, mowing lawns, but that was
right. So
I ended up sitting there one time, and I was in college. I think it was my last year. I think it was 2010. And I remember like looking out. It was really sunny out. And it was nice. It was middle of the summer. It was like probably 2-3 in the afternoon. And for some reason, I just had this idea. I'm like, I wonder how many hours a day I actually work. Meaning I'm there for, say, 8.5 hours. How much of those is actually productive? Mm-hmm. I mean, if I did 3 hours, that was probably a lot out of 8. Because most of the time, you're just sitting waiting for people. If it was busy, you're serving people. But really, it was like small town, so you'd kind of get this trickle effect of cars. Maybe you had 2 people, and then maybe in the evenings a little quicker. And you would prep stuff, and you would, do kind of like the prep work for the night and all that stuff. But even said, if I was to come in and do every single one of those job tasks all the way through from start to finish, how long would it take? I'm like, say 3 hours. I'm like, I could work basically from 1 to 4 every day.
Right.
Do the same amount of work, peace out at 4 o'clock, and have my 4 to 9 completely free to go hang out with family, friends, summer, all that stuff. So I remember sitting there, I'm like, I'm never going to work an hourly job in my life. Because I'm like, I didn't like it. I'm like, so I ended up telling my dad, I'm like, do you mind if I get my real estate license? Like I asked him permission. I was like, do you mind if I get my real estate license? He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Go ahead. Like, I'll figure it out. Like Google it. Like he didn't.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing it. That's how I got in as my plan B, basically. And I ended up really hating my internship in college with my degree, which just like kept, because I already had my license in real estate. So then I was like, I'm going to do this to figure out what I want to do. I'm going to do real estate till I figure out what I want to do. Yeah. Well, that was 10 years ago, so here I am still. So, yeah. But, so how did you get in the car business?
So I grew, like I said, I grew up on a potato farm. I guess my dad farms with his brother. And then I went to agricultural college. I was the youngest of 4. My 3 older siblings all went to, it's funny, they went to the same university. It was about probably 6 hours away from where we grew up. And then the agricultural college I went to was just 1 hour short of that. So I told people I just got off the bus a little early. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I knew at the time I wasn't real dialed into going to university. And so I played a little bit of hockey and started out at community college. And then after the first semester, I switched over to the agricultural college, I guess, and figured I'd just go back and farm. And I went back after I finished, and I was working on the farm for about a year. And at the time, my dad would have been probably 54, 55, and his brother he was farming with is a little younger than that. And the winter is a little bit slow on the farm, but so I thought, maybe I'll try something different. And I guess our family kind of knew her family, and her dad actually called my father And
I joke that we're modern day arranged marriage.
Yeah.
and
So you didn't know each other at the time.
Well, like we knew of
We
each
knew of
other.
each
We had a
other.
lot of mutual friends, but never really.
Yeah.
yeah. And anyways, he asked he asked my father if I'd be interested in maybe talking to him, and so I said, well, maybe I'll try something else. I got lots of time to come back. My dad would be at it for a while, and so anyways, I went down and started. I guess in Canada there's the May long weekend, May 24 they call it, and
Memorial Day weekend here.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
And
We've converted.
So I started then, and you were studying abroad that semester, I think, and you came back and you worked in sales. You started in June?
Yeah.
And then, anyways, we actually went away on a sales course that summer, and then that's when we started dating and didn't tell her father for a little bit.
Till I went back to school. We weren't sure how that was going to go over.
And yeah, I think the rest is history. So been doing it ever since. I have one of my brothers is back home. He's farming just down the road, I guess, from my father. So him and his brother are still at it, and my brother's farming back there. One of my brothers is a teacher, and then I have a sister working for the government, I guess, in
Canadian government?
yeah, working in change management. She's on maternity right now, but she'll be going back soon.
That's pretty wild, though. Like how everything just kind of clicked together.
Yeah.
So, and then I guess owning a dealership. When did you get the itch to own a dealership?
Kind of when did we get married, like 2016. So, well, something came up right after I finished school in like 2014, and I would have just been getting started back again full time, and it was in a smaller area, so we were like, we'll stay where we are and kind of get things going there. And then so I guess 2016 when we got married was kind of really, my oldest brother got his store in 2015.
It was really like after he did that, then we started like, well, maybe we should. We knew it was probably a little more longer term, but
would take a long. Yeah,
that's what we started.
He looked for a store for 8 years, so we were like, okay, we better start now and see where we wind up in 8 years.
And how long did the search take in total before you
Well,
decided?
yeah, pretty much. So we found out about Plattsburgh. It took from the day we found out about it. It was 9 months till we closed on the store. So that's ironically talking about, the changes and how easy it is to do things. I'm like that happening during COVID was hard. We had insane challenges getting through the border and being able to travel, but you had so many meetings with accountants and lawyers and cross-border, immigration lawyers, corporate lawyers, Canadian accountants, U.S. accountants, and then plus with the broker, plus with General Motors. And it was so many meetings that you had to have, but it kind of worked out perfectly because everyone was set up for Zoom.
Yeah.
Like, everyone knew how to do it. When we bought our house, it was done online through like e-contracting. So that stuff was, it was a blessing and a curse kind of all at once. But so when we first wanted to go, we found out about it in March, and had COVID not been a thing, we could have been on a plane the next week and gone to see it, or hopped in the car, drove the 8 hours and come see it. But we couldn't, at the time, you weren't allowed to leave the province unless it was for essential reasons. Mm-hmm. So it took me 3 weeks I had to call the U.S. Customs to kind of like, figure out what documentation do we need to be let into the U.S. And then New Brunswick, if you left New Brunswick, even if it was for essential reasons, when you came back, you had to quarantine for 14 days. But at that time, right before we were about to leave, New Brunswick had a mandatory hotel isolation, meaning you had to isolate in a designated hotel for 7 days and then go to your house for 7 days. And then, like, in the meantime, then it was like, figure out a plan for that. And then they came out and said, as long as you're in, like, your house is a standalone home, you're not in an apartment building, you can quarantine in your house. It's like, okay, we're good to go. Well, then you find out only those who leave the province can quarantine with each other. So our kids who are 2 and 6 months old at the time, they weren't going to be able to quarantine with us. And we're like, it's not like they're school age and worry about us sending them to school. I was still nursing the youngest one. I'm like, I need to be near them. Anyway, they wouldn't let us. So it was because we were going to go through the states first. And then anyway, we called like the chief medical officer, every government, provincial government person we could, like just begging for an exception. There was no exception. And then anyway, when it was the day before we left, and I said, okay, if they leave the province, can they isolate with us? Yes. So I said, okay, we're going to go through Quebec. So Shea and my father and myself ended up leaving through Quebec to go to Plattsburgh. We came for 2 nights. And on the way back, my mother, who was watching our kids, had to drive them 2 hours to the New Brunswick-Quebec border, meet us, get into, like, switch vehicles, and then drive back into New Brunswick.
Just to say you all crossed the border.
Yes, just to be able to isolate in our own homes with our own children for 14 days.
It's so silly. Like,
oh my gosh,
it's
it was
like
crazy.
logic comes through. It's like, why? Like that's okay. Like, I don't know. Those good times. But
Yeah.
so
That was COVID.
so you were able to see the actual place before you bought it.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
that was kind of
Yeah.
like we found out about it. So you do your market research and look at sales history numbers, all that stuff. And then it was, so it's like, okay, do you, would you like to go for that store? Yes. Then it's like, okay, do you want to move your family there and raise your family there? Because, if you're going to buy that store, you're going to move there, and that's where you're going to raise your kids. So that was the first trip, was essentially, do you like the area? And literally, so I joked to Shea, I'm like, we came in, was it exit 87? Or 37. The one that'll
37.
take you right on Route 3,
Yeah,
37. Anyway, and I just saw like the consumer square with like all the stores. And I was like, this is it. We're moving.
Buffalo Wild Wings got you.
Yeah, I'm like, that's what happens when you grow up in a really small town.
It's
Easy
more than a
sell.
diner. This is great.
Yeah.
So was there other people in the running for the store?
I
We
know.
don't really know.
It's not
Yeah,
really
they
disclosed,
kinda-
I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
So we came in mid-May and then had everything signed by July. And then it's funny because it's like the whole 9 months is, you see it happening and it's going to happen, but that there's going to be like 500 roadblocks along the way. So it was like, immigration. Are we even allowed to buy the business and live there and work there? And, what if we get kicked out of the country and we can't get to our business? And then it was getting the dealer license. Well, you can't get the dealer license until you buy the business. Well, you can't buy the business until you figure immigration out. So it was kind of like, chicken and egg,
yeah.
back and forth 20 times. And then we came in July to do a trip to find a place to live and find daycare for the kids. And that was like, I think I cried the whole way home from that trip. That
both
trip
of
was
those
a
were not
bust.
done by supply.
Oh, God. But then funny enough, the next week we had scheduled like a family vacation, and then where the kids are napping, we're having a Zoom meeting with accountants and lawyers. And then we got the call saying the house that we had been looking at just became available. So we're like, oh, and then a month later we had daycare for the oldest, but not the youngest. And then the daycare was like, hey, we now have a spot for your youngest. So I was like, oh, thank God.
The Caesar party.
Everything's, yes, yeah. So it took, it was a roller coaster of 9 months. And then even moving here, we thought that we would get here before the moving truck, unpack everything, then go back and get the kids. But at that time it was October, and it was like, it kind of looked like the borders might be closing again. So we're like, so it was just kind of like, we went to work that morning, gathered all our stuff, said goodbye to everyone, grabbed the kids, and met the moving truck at the border.
Was both families very supportive of moving, or is that tough because you're in a family business, so like obviously taking both of you out of a family business, like you're in a small business, so you take out 2 key players. It's like it's probably a good opportunity for you, but obviously,
yes, yeah. My family knew like that was kind of once everyone's in the car business, the goal is to, eventually get your own store. So we knew that everyone kind of eventually would get their own store. We just didn't know who would stay and who would go or where they would go. So my family understood it.
Yeah, mine was, it was a bit more of a shock, I would say, just because, your family's in the business and I guess everything is, when you're trying to find a business to buy, everything's a kind of hush hush until you start making some progress on something. And so it was definitely a shock that, I think my parents knew that we were looking, but I think, in our original plan, like we said earlier, was to stay closer to, in the Maritimes and then, so it was definitely a shock when
it was kind of like, hey, we might be moving. We don't know where or when. And then it was like, okay, we're leaving the country.
I was gonna say, was leaving the country odd for your family? Having been in the car
Yeah, that
industry?
was, and like we never even imagined. That's why I'm like, I keep saying like this was, the best decision we've ever made, like more than our wildest dreams, to be in the U.S. because it's the land of opportunity. We love it here. So that was never something that we thought of. Like you just figured Atlantic Canada and kind of that's where you grow up. It's kind of
Yeah, it's like that box you're in. Just
yeah.
going. Do you find I always look at Canada as like not to put down the country. Like I love Canada, but like I always just think like Canada's always like the little sibling of U.S. because they're close, they're neighbors, but like we have bigger cities, we have just like everything's just amplified in the U.S. that. And you see so many people come to the U.S. Like I have friends in Canada that come and travel. Or I got a really good friend. He's a broker up in Calgary, and he'll come down and he's like Mr. U.S. when he's down here. He's Canada, so we always give him crap. But they like love coming down. He takes vacations down here, and I'm like, no offense, I've literally only been to Montreal in Canada. Like I don't go to. I've never been to Toronto. I've never been to Ottawa. I've never been I'd love to, but do you find that? Does it feel that way when you come to the U.S. that it just seems like you're in a more, I'm gonna say more prominent country. But like just a bigger, like more.
It's just it's the masses. Like there's just more people. I mean, in Canada, there's like 37 million people maybe, and what is there in the States? Like 350 million.
Yeah.
So it's just everywhere you go, there's just more people and more stuff. So
was that 100 to 1 roughly? Did I do that math completely wrong? 30 to 1, 100 to 1.
That sounds good to me.
You're the finance person, right? Yeah, she's giving me the head. She's not. Yes, we're good.
One weekend we went to, you're in New York City and it's 5 hours away, and it's like, you could go to Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is a beautiful area, but it's not New York City. So now it's like, oh my gosh, our weekend trips are in New York, or even just to go to Montreal for the weekend. And even, I talk about raising kids and working at the same time. Like I can order groceries before I get home and it gets delivered. You don't have time to cook supper, you can DoorDash whatever you want. It doesn't have to be just pizza.
Yeah.
Like life is just a lot more convenient here. And then so the joke in Canada is like when you go online looking to shop for something, well, only ships in the US. So now everyone's trying to ship stuff to us because they can't get it in Canada.
And then they Venmo you, or not Venmo.
Right? Yeah, no, oh my God.
What was it? I mean, $30 ship it up to us. Here you go. Now, when you came here, so the staff or everybody else at Knight Automotive, when you bought it, did a lot of those people transition to you, or do you have to like bring in a crew? Like how does that work?
No, we didn't. We just had ourselves. So that was kind of the challenge almost. Like had we stayed in Canada, it would have been much easier to, bring people with us to help. But it's not necessarily to replace people, just to add to the staff. We generally like to carry a larger staff than most dealerships, just because you can be a lot more accommodating to your staff when you don't always have to worry about being short-staffed. But it was just us. But no, we got really lucky with the staff that's there, and most of them are still there, and we've grown the staff. So they really helped us kind of get, acclimated and used to how things run. And
so how many people work at your building?
There's a little over 40 now. There's 25 when we started.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And that's between parts, service, sales.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just
Everything.
Reconditioning.
Detail.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't think it was that many people at the dealership. That's pretty.
Yeah, it takes a lot to make it go around.
It takes a lot to, and we're
but
still
that's the
not,
thing about the dealership that
done.
People see a dealership and you think car sales, but there really is. There's a service department, so you need technicians, you need service advisors, and you need parts and people to clean the cars, and administration staff, accounting, all that stuff. So,
well, I'm sure a lot of those positions too, like especially when you're in service, like you have to know how to do it. It's not like like I could go in and I'm like I can learn it, but I don't know what I'm doing. So like, you got to have some type of training or But I mean, even more so than like, hey, fill out this document, do this. Like you had to actually have hands-on training. Like, I don't know.
Because I'm like, I always talk about our technicians. I'm like, they're car doctors. Like they need to know everything, and their patients, the cars can't really tell them what's wrong. It's you're going off of
and people don't
tests.
change. The body doesn't change, but cars change every year. So
so it's always the learning about what's new, the new parts. Do you have the right tools?
How often do things change? Is it each season a new car comes out? Is it like pretty different from the year prior, or is there times?
No, they run in cycles. So so every year you're going to get one or two that are like completely changing, but
Well, like anytime, because like a lease would be typically, what, 3 years most time? 36 months?
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Like that. So I remember my first couple cars I'd get, and I'd bring them in every 3 years. It was like, I don't pay attention to the car industry. So like every third year, I was like, wow, that's now standard, or you have that. But it's over
in 3 years it would go a lot.
Yeah, which is crazy because I mean, you start going down. I forgot what I had a couple CRVs back to back, and I remember getting this is also, I hate car shopping. Like people probably hate real estate shopping too. It's like the same, but like it's a necessity. So I remember going and I got a car the first time. Like, I hate doing this. It's just time, and I'm like, I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
And the second time I went in, I was like, listen, I'm turning it in. Just give me the exact same car, the newer version. And he's like, okay. And then I went to go pick it up, and I got in the car. I'm like, all right, cool, thanks. He goes, well, do you want to like drive it? Like, want me to show you? Because I had already bought it. I didn't test drive it. And
right.
I'm just like, just give it to me. And I'm like, no, I should be good, right? He goes, well, there's some new stuff. So I'm like, okay. So I ended up just driving around the block basically, and he kind of showed me some stuff. And there was quite a bit in 3 years. I'm just impatient. I'm just like, give it to me. I don't care. Like, give me the keys. I'm just heading out. I got to go to something. So, but there was a lot.
Kids are crying.
Yeah, it was just amazing. Like in 3 years, how much actually had changed. I was oblivious. But what's the last thing that was changed in a car where you got excited?
Oh, that's
About
a
a
good one.
feature.
That's a really good question.
Like where you actually felt like, oh well, I'm actually kind of giddy over this.
So like when I
Super
started, it was
Cruise.
like, when I started, it was like starting to get some backup cameras, but it was like a little tiny one in the rear view mirror.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And now like the most basic car has a backup camera. But yeah, we just went to Buick GMC had a dealer conference, and we got to do some new product stuff, and we got to try out the Super Cruise on the Sierra Denali Ultimate. So we got out on the freeway, and on the steering wheel, it'll kind of like read your eyes, make sure that you are like watching. You can't just like fall asleep while it drives, but you just got to like sit there in the driver's seat. But you put on Super Cruise, and it was just going by itself. It was passing cars and pulling out, pulling in, and slowing down, speeding up.
It's like the Simpsons episode of Homer on autopilot. He's like, I think he was driving a transport or something, but I was like, we're actually here. So
Yeah.
this is.
I was gonna
this
say,
is
so
it.
how? So it was merging all by itself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it'll pull out in the lane and just go. But it's like now you can drive. So like obviously that would will kind of help you steer, and then you have like your lane keep assist. So if you have that on, if the car starts to veer into one lane or the other, it'll kind of bring it back so you stay in the lane. You have adaptive cruise control, so you don't even have to hit the brakes. The car will just kind of adjust itself.
The Buick Enclave now has a massage seat.
Yeah,
That's next.
Yeah.
And the Envision, I guess. Yeah.
So does it follow? Like, would it merge off and take a right turn and left turn? Is it just kind of more throughway driving?
more throughway, I would say. Yeah.
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 That's pretty cool, though.
But I'm like, eventually you probably could just punch in the address and it'll take you there.
Well, what I've always thought is like, if it gets to that point, like I'm down for it, because like if you think about just even traveling for like a 20-minute appointment, if I could just sit there and someone can, it's basically a chauffeur, like bringing you there. I'm like, as long as I have like Wi-Fi and stuff and I can like do stuff on my computer, I'm like, you just get so much more time back in the day.
Yeah.
Just because of commuting. I mean, I try to listen to like a lot of like audiobooks in the car and podcasts, like, so I'm trying to like learn stuff as I drive around, so I'm not just like mindlessly listening to music. But it'd still be cool to actually productively, like, if you got to write stuff out or fill something out or do something, you do it in the car ride.
Yeah. So more productive.
That's a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before.
And is the Denali, that's like the highest level? That's an SUV, but like that's like the upper, like,
yeah,
it's
kind of
like a
the
trim
flagship
level.
kind of.
Yeah, they call it. I guess it's like a sub brand now for GMC. So you can get a Denali it's a trim level that you can get on basically every model that they make. So you can get it on a Terrain or an Acadia or Sierra, Canyon.
So Denali is just the name that they would
Yukon.
classify as like the highest level.
Premium. Yeah.
Yeah.
Premium. Yeah. We had a friend. She had I'm trying to think what she had. It was Denali, but what's the SUV of
the Yukon? Probably.
You can get a Terrain, Acadia,
It
Yukon.
might have been a Yukon Denali. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she had a Yukon Denali, and it's this big black car, and it looked like she was like Secret Service.
Yeah.
And it was right about
See him in the movies.
And it was like, I mean, it had every bell and whistle that you could imagine on this thing, and she's a dink, which means dual income, no
So,
kids.
yeah, we learned that here.
Yeah. So she, they definitely could afford it, and she was driving, and it was, remember the Tide Pod Challenge?
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
Never
Kids were
did
like-
it, thankfully,
No,
but
no,
I remember seeing it.
You got a
yeah.
brain. You're good. So so basically, people don't know. Like, I think kids were like eating Tide Pods and got them high, which I don't know. I don't know why they would do it, but whatever. So we used to just joke that she was dealing Tide Pods. This was back when I was like, "That's your Tide Pod machine." But it was a pretty slick car. It's like I just like black SUVs because they just remind me of like
They're
Secret
sleek
Service.
looking.
Or sleek.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look
Yeah.
cool. So at where you guys are, so it's GMC and Buick are the two cars that you sell,
Yes.
and you only
Two brands, yep.
Any other model you carry would just be like a used car.
So those
Yeah.
are the brands, and then for used inventory, we try to carry all the off makes as well because everyone's.
So you could, I mean, that's like kosher for you guys. Like you could pull in like a Ford or like a Honda or something
Yep.
and still sell it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's not a whole lot I know about car. I mean, I know a little bit, but not
It's all right. That's what we're here for.
car and track. There you go. So do you guys have a preference over GMC or Buick, or does it not really matter?
Well, it's kind of funny. So in Canada, we always grew up it's rare to see a standalone Buick GMC store in Canada. Like usually you have Chev Buick GMC.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So to us, it was kind of
They're in the bigger city.
bigger
markets.
cities you'll see standalones. But growing up, to us, General Motors was General Motors. It was Chev Buick GMC, and there was never much of a difference between Chev and GMC. And then now we both keep saying, like, now that we're only Buick and GMC, like we see the difference in the GMC compared to Chevrolet. But because GMC is premium grade, it's supposed to be General Motors next level up. So mind you, there's a lot more GMCs around than Buick. So I guess comparing GMC to Buick, I like trucks, so I like GMCs.
So GMC's, I'm guessing, is a better seller for you guys too, or more popular.
Volume wise, yeah.
Yeah.
If you just look at market share in general, GMC is definitely.
But the
more,
Buicks they're beautiful.
Yeah.
So which cars do you drive?
I have a Sierra.
Yeah. So.
Oh, you have the truck?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
and,
cool. Yeah.
So when we came here, I had a vehicle in Canada. But when we moved here, we just brought one vehicle, and so
No, what did you sell in Canada?
Yeah, we had a Pontiac Torrent. So
Yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
is
so
that older or newer than G6?
Oh,
it'd be the same.
yeah, it was an 07.
Okay, yeah.
Nine.
Oh, was it 09?
Yeah.
Oh.
I might
Tori,
have
we
clipped
called
you
her.
by a year. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got an 07.
Our kid,
And,
he is still, but was very obsessed with the color red. And so maybe like 2 months after we moved here, he goes, where did Torrent go? Want a wed car? Like didn't clue in that, we live somewhere different now and you haven't seen that car in 3 months.
Yeah, and so that vehicle was a lease. So we brought one vehicle with us, and so I've just been driving basically a used vehicle.
gonna say,
something different every couple of weeks.
Not
but
a bad gig.
Yeah.
Just change it up.
We only live a mile and a half from the dealership. So
some people, it's funny. Some people are in the business and they're not really into cars, but like I'm into cars, so I like
my
to-
father drives a 2013 Impala.
Really?
Like the door, yeah. I'm like, to him, the Impala is the best car that's ever made.
Yeah.
It is very comfortable, but it's just funny.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
You know what's? I actually have a buddy who has an Impala, and same thing. It's like
They are
like,
nice.
He likes, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've never drove one, but like same thing.
The seats are like comfy like a couch. Yeah.
So what was the best model of? Sorry, Buick and GMC. You had back it was Chevy, Buick, and GMC. So
Yes.
you did carry all three. So
Yeah.
what was your favorite car model or year out of all of those? Because you said like Impala. Was there one that
question.
like stuck out and like man that was like the like?
I always
bee's
loved the
knees?
Monte Carlo. Those were cool, but that was
I think he means like
Well,
one
that-
that we would have sold though. That would have been
Well, no, like
before,
yeah, like
right?
one that you guys
Hasn't
had, but
changed
you're
much
like
since
this
we
was like
started.
my favorite one that we had. Because I always think like there's certain like shoes that I like, and my shoes that I wear all the time, I think they came out like 8 years ago, and they've had a bunch of models since. But like that's still my favorite shoe to the point
Right.
where I buy them off like eBay and buy them off of like
try to track him down.
yeah, like
don't
I
make
don't-
them like they used to.
no, and they're just if there's something about them, I'm like, why would they ever change these? These are the best ones. So like that's what I'm saying. Is there ever a car that you guys look at and like, man, that like 2015 whatever was the best truck or best whatever they made?
It's funny. I don't know. I cars change so much, and especially in the last. I think they've probably changed more in the last 8 years than they have in the previous 80. Like there's so much stuff
Oh,
that they keep
yeah.
adding to them. So, I don't know. I get excited every year when all the new stuff comes out, and so it's hard to look back at one and say like that was the one, because to me it's always like whatever's coming is
better.
that newest one. But I don't know if I had to pick one, it'd be I think it'd be your friend's Tide Pod machine, the Yukon Denali. It's hard to beat. That's up there.
We'll have to customize one and call it the Tide Pod.
It was just make it all orange and blue, or whatever, red and blue. Well, it's like, do you play golf? Either of you?
He's a bachelor party golfer.
Yeah, I don't get out much. I someday I'll have more time to get out, but
we want to learn.
It's like, well, yeah, it's good. Yeah. That's good first step. It's like clubs, certain things. Like you used to play, I'm like, man, I wish they made that wedge still, that driver.
So yeah, funny you say that. I'm into hockey, I guess, and so they just released. One of the first one-piece sticks was the Easton Synergy, and so do you remember that?
But high school age for
yes.
us? Yep. Because I had a bunch of buddies.
We would have been
hockey.
We would have been like, you're 32.
Yes.
Yeah, so we would have been like grade like 7, 8, 9 when like those were coming out, so that was like the holy grail of hockey sticks. Like that was the biggest thing from like the Gretzky aluminum one.
What was the brand?
Easton.
Easton. Okay, I remember the Synergy name. Yeah.
And so Bauer actually recently just did a remake or whatever of this Easton Synergy, so it
like
kind of
limited edition.
Wasn't that the first like carbon fiber like?
It was the first one-piece composite stick.
Yeah.
And so
it was a big deal.
They just like remade them. Bauer just remade them on the website, and so anyways, I got one, and then I had my buddy from they wouldn't ship it to Canada, and my buddy had to message me and to get a couple, so I brought a couple back.
Do you play? Do you play the beer leagues here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or do you play at Can-Am, or do you play in Shea?
So right now there's a good skate on at Can-Am, and then in the winter I've been playing. There's a group like Tuesday nights that I've been getting out to more so, just the way the schedule worked in Shea.
Scott's.
Yep. And then there was like
Such
the
a
odd
cool league. Yeah.
I can't even remember now. It was only winter,
coop.
but
I think
Is it
heated? No, it's not heated.
Not that I know of.
Still cold. I mean, it used to have no roof on it too.
Wow.
It was. I think they call it like.
There's a cool story there, eh? With like the NHLPA, I think
they did something. There was some kind of grant they got, and so basically the Scotch rinks in Shea, but it was named after. I believe I hope I had the story right. There was two boys I believe that got killed in a car accident, both named Scott. So they call it Scotch rink. So I think the two boys, I think they weren't brothers. I think they both just played hockey, and they kind of a fluke thing. But they ended up calling it the Scotch rink. And I remember when they built it, I was young. I was probably, 10, 11, something like 9, 10, 11, something like that. And then, but it's really grown. So like, that's kind of a premier, it's like it's down dirt road, like in that's my hometown. And, like I said, it's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's a great bunch out there. So it's,
you get I'm assuming the Giroux and the Gays and all them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So they're
great.
Giroux are all the chicken farmers. Maybe they call it the chicken coop, but they're super nice people. But they play pretty hard too.
Oh yeah.
Those guys, they're no spring chickens. They've been playing for years and years and years. But they're all in really good shape, and they bust tail out there.
Oh,
so
yeah, that was kind of one of the first like spots you met people when we first got here. Yeah, because we moved in October. We thought we were gonna close on the store in November, and it kept getting pushed, but the confidentiality clause was still in, so we couldn't talk about why we were in Plattsburgh.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
that was weird.
Yeah, that was. You felt like socially awkward because you couldn't
What
really carry on a conversation. Yeah. So he started playing hockey, and it was like, did anyone ask why you're here? And he's like, no. So I think you get through like maybe 3.
Just say you worked at Stewart's or something. They're like, yeah, I'm the new guy at Stewart's. Like, oh, okay. Probably see you tomorrow morning.
We work on Route 3.
That's good. And so you do ski or don't?
Do.
Yeah.
You both ski?
Yeah. Yep. I'm more into the après ski, but I ski.
That's cross country?
No, après ski is hanging out in the bar afterwards.
Oh, okay. I like that. The lodge. You're a lodger?
Yeah. But he's like, his brothers, his dad, they're very good skiers. He won't say it. But so when you follow them down the trail, like I feel like I'm getting the workout of my life, and they just make it look so easy. So usually I'll go off to like a groomed trail with no people on it, and then that I enjoy because it's more leisurely. But
what's the closest mountain to your hometown?
So funny, like living on the border, we were actually the same distance. There was one in Canada and one overcross, as we call it, in the States.
Over yonder
in Big Rock, or it's called Big Rock in Mars Hill, Maine, and so that's where we would go to mostly is actually in Maine. skiing. It was about a half hour away. So
Have you skied Whiteface yet? Or you said
Not yet,
We've
so-
been there probably like 6
Yeah,
times.
we've been there, but
every
it's-
time someone comes, we're like, okay, we're gonna go to Lake Placid and stop by Whiteface, and
It's
we
been
did the
killing me,
gondola a
but
few
yeah.
weeks ago with the kids. That was cool.
definitely this winter.
We have you're more than welcome to come. We have like I don't know what day. We used to do Wednesdays and then get shifted to Fridays, but we have like a standalone, like we go in the morning. So we're usually up there for like first chair, or
nice.
depending how quickly we can drop the kids off and get
The
for
eager
school.
beavers.
Yeah, so we get up there early and we'll try to typically ski in the morning. We usually get back by like noon.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
I'm saying if you ever want a group of people,
Yeah,
it's local professionals with kids club, I guess. I don't
Awesome.
know.
Yeah.
We just
I'll
get
be
up
down for
early
that.
because that's the only time we can
Yeah.
ski. So. But no, Whiteface is pretty fun. I mean, it's I've recently kind of picked it up. Like I didn't really ski much as a kid. But Vermont's like I guess where you're supposed to go.
Right, yeah. A lot of people we talk to, like
Yeah, I've-
Smuggler's Notch and Stowe.
Yeah,
Which
and
one?
J
Yeah.
Peak.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's a lot of like high, like very nice. I guess it snows better over there or something. But I only know Whiteface. But like Whiteface turns into they call it Ice Face.
I've
Ice
heard
face,
Ice Face.
yeah.
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 I heard
We're
Titus is
learning
really
all the
good with
local lingo.
for the kids and
Yeah.
stuff
Titus
too.
is
So
awesome. So if you go to the cool thing about Titus, they have tubing, which is fun. Which is literally you just slide down and then you grab your tube and go with like magic carpet.
It brings
up.
you up. Nice.
Yeah, but they have a nice little lodge there, and then they have little cabanas down like the Bunny Hill.
oh yeah.
So you kind of go in and we went there last year once. I think they have a little heater in there, a table, a couple couches, and you bring like food and hang out. There's bathrooms there, so like the kids, if they're
Nice.
like cold or if
Yeah,
they just want
nice.
to kind
Yeah.
of chill out or take a nap, you can bring them there. But that's cool. It's a smaller mountain, but if you're like kids are learning to ski
Yeah.
or you're
Yeah.
just kind of chilling, or if you have people that aren't really at like Whiteface is pretty intimidating. Like it's a pretty steep mountain. So if you go to Titus, it's way more gradual. And yeah, you can pretty much get anybody. Like first time on skis, go to Titus.
Okay.
So it's cool, and that's a decent little drive out there too. You've been to Malone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's pretty fun, but the tubing's cool too. Like if nobody skis, you just go down in the tube. It's like I said, hopefully it's a good like kind of fast day. You go and it's like kind of warm. It be a little sticky.
slower.
A little sticky. Yeah. So what else have you guys done in Plattsburgh? Like because less than a year in, like.
Yeah. We had. I keep saying like
Is it
how
just mostly the work, or do you guys get out?
that.
Like,
Well, a lot of
obviously
it's
hockey?
like the chamber here is incredible.
Yeah.
Like the after hours, and then 80 KYP
Yeah.
Adirondack Young Professionals.
Yeah.
We've been to those events, and then we do a lot of the chamber stuff. But it's just nice to have like at
Rotary,
least
yeah.
one a month. Rotary we're in, so it's just kind of nice we've been able to get out and meet so many people so quickly.
Was
and
that
everyone's just
was that a goal of yours to do, or is that common where you were from?
so where we're from, I kind of always tell people it's, great town, great people. There just wasn't as many events going on. So if you weren't really from there, it was almost really hard to meet people unless you met someone who purposely tried to make sure you meet new people. But here it was, we went to our first after hours like
Yeah.
on day 2 of work. And then since then it's just been
So how did
meeting people.
How did you find out about those events?
Rich Knight took us to
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, to the first after hours. And then we joined the chamber. And then Megan Whedon got us into 80 KYP. Rotary, we had never joined in New Brunswick, but my father and brother were in it. So we kind of knew that we wanted to join that when we got here. What else?
That's pretty much it.
I mean, that's a
And,
good-
met quite a few people through hockey, and then recently joined PPC.
Oh
Yes.
I actually got out of that not too long ago, but yeah. No, it's not
Early
a bad
mornings,
thing.
yeah. Early mornings.
It's
Oh my God.
Thursday morning, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been how many of those meetings or groups?
I've been to a handful, but then there's another guy at the dealership that I have going too. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a little tough with the two little guys at home, and
That's why I had to get out. 'Cause
Yeah.
We were just like, I was commuting, I was bringing them to school, and like the times just didn't work. My wife
Yeah.
was home. We have 3 little ones, so it's like it was, yeah.
busy.
But no, that's good. Like you just get out and meeting people.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
get out and you just gotta. I mean, you realize you gotta like pick and choose what you can do, and like that's the hardest thing. Like I'm in Rotary. I'm probably gonna get kicked out of Rotary. Like I gotta go to meetings. It's just like it's hard for like on Wednesdays at noon or whatever to like actually get up and go,
Yeah.
and because these things like overlap and
Yeah.
it's hard. Like I always say like those things are great, but at the end of the day, you like really have to take care of like your stuff, and then
Yeah.
those are like bonus. Like if you can go to them, great, but you can't. And I'm pretty good about compartmentalizing stuff, but sometimes you just like listen, like that's just not a good use of my 2 hours or an hour and a half of the day. So then it's really 80 KYP. I did a lot, but then it's the same thing. Like in after hours, just as the kids, it gets
take more and more time off.
Well, it gets more difficult, and it's like and my wife typically stays home most days with them, so it's like going and just relieving her a little bit, or being a kind of a partner in crime to help her out makes it easier. So like I haven't been going out as much, but those are great. Like the groups you're in, like 80 KYP, we did that for years, and that's an awesome group. And then in the chambers, like arguably probably one of the best chambers in the U.S.
Yeah,
so
I've
good.
never heard of the stuff
incredible.
that they do. Yeah,
like the Business Expo.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You guys were there.
Yeah, the St. Patrick's Day breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh, did you go to that?
Yeah. Loved your show.
You can be honest.
I loved it. It's great. It was so funny. I was like, "Is this a real story?" And then we're like, we had already met some of the people from the chamber. I was like, "Okay, that doesn't sound like them." I was like, "Oh." He spoke very well.
Christy singing karaoke actually probably sounds legit, but
it's her birthday today, is it?
It is.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Christy.
It's her birthday month. She was saying it last week. It was actually supposed to be today, but they ended up moving it. I forgot why they moved it. Maybe it was because of her birthday. I don't know. But it was supposed to be like typically today's the chambers, the third Thursday of the month.
Oh, right. The after hours.
Or the after hours.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. So it was supposed to be today, which was her birthday. So I don't know if it got pushed up because of that or something going today. But it ended up working out. It was good. But yeah, the chamber, that's a place where you can just like, network and meet, and like so many resources there.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Because a lot of the people that have been working there have been doing it for years. Like Gary and Sue have been there forever. And they've had staff there that, and they have some new people that have come on, like Joel and Adriana, but they're just,
we've met them.
Yeah, they're super awesome, and they're just fun people. So
yeah.
So with the car dealership, what's your hope with the car dealership now that this is, again, first time owning something or running a company, so you call the shots and do all that. Like, what's your, do you guys have a vision? Do you guys have, is it kind of more, just keep doing what you're doing, or do you have visions to grow it? Do you have visions for?
Yeah, we definitely want to grow it. Yeah, so I'm like, it's kind of this year. I'm like, we keep saying, you're in the building year, so it's like, every day you go in, it's like, okay, there's 40 fires going on. Which ones need to be put out? And then but it's just it doesn't matter what business or who's there. That's just year one of any business. So it's growing the business we'd like to do, and then obviously fine tuning it when you hit your growth. I guess that's kind of what we did with the store before. It's like, okay, how big can we grow it to a point where it might not need to grow anymore, or it's not as efficient, or if it's getting too big. So it's kind of just figuring out what those parameters are. And then I guess to us, we both grew up in small towns, and we played a lot of sports, but those sports were around because of all the local businesses and people who volunteered and kind of helped build the community. So I guess that's kind of the biggest to do, for the business, is to kind of help support the community and build it up and make sure there's things for the kids to do, basically.
And do you find is it harder without family here? Like, obviously you had family, would be easier, but do you kind
of both? It's good for the family to move. Obviously we spend a lot more time together, and we do things, because it's not like, a birthday party here or a baby shower here, this friend, we're together a lot more often, which is nice. Obviously we miss our family.
Yeah.
But they come visit often. But it is,
and visits are different. Like, I know.
Yeah, you have more quality time.
My mom was real heartbroken when she found out I was moving away. But I told her, I said, listen, when we visit, I'm not coming over for just 2 or 3 hours or for supper. Like,
for a weekend or
we're gonna come home and we're gonna stay at your house, and then you get up and you eat together, and you're they're just.
There's something to be said by that. Like, when we go down to see my in-laws in Florida, it's like the same thing. It's like you're just there, you're not working, you're just kind of like hanging out. So what do you want to do? So you're really just getting full days, and then you kind of get to the end of it, like, okay, we're gonna go home. Like, you almost like it's good to get back. No, but that's it's definitely good. And I think the other thing too is like you guys having complete autonomy, right? That must be kind of neat. Like, maybe a little bit different than before, because you really don't have like no checks besides YouTube, but like no real checks and balances.
It's kind of it's the good and the bad. It's kind of, I remember, when you get started, and it's like, okay, like, give it a month, like reps and stuff would kind, hey, can we meet? I'm like, give us a month, and then a month later, I'm like, okay, no, give us 6 months. Give us 6 months. Like there's just, you know, so much to do. And then, you know, you got to pick the kids up at 5:15 and then, you know, the day starts. But then also I'm like, I think having the kids has been like a break from work, because if we didn't have them there, we would just live at the dealership. So it has been kind of a nice, just a nice break, and they make us get out and do things.
Were you guys more nervous, scared, or excited for the opportunity?
Kind of all of them. But it was like, it was the good fear of, you know, like, yes, there's so much could go wrong, but if it does happen, it'll be so great. And it has been so great.
Yeah. And we've been, you know, prepping for it for a long time, and then, you know, working on the deal since it started back in May of 2021. So the time we got to the point of taking over, you know, a couple of things were a little unfortunate where, you know, we couldn't do something until something else was in place, you know, that Annie referenced earlier. Like we couldn't do this until we got the dealer license. Well, we couldn't get that until we got the final stamp from GM. So there's a lot of stuff that we could have had done if there wasn't so much red tape ahead of time to get done. But we had everything, I think, you know, a lot of stuff prepared. There's still a lot of stuff that we're learning about New York State that's different or done differently than other places. But so I think, I don't know. I don't know if one would take...
We're very detailed and process oriented. And then so we're used to how things were going at our store. And then there's might be some things where you're like, oh, I, you know, didn't realize that I had a process for that. And that's what needs to be done. So it's kind of just every day figuring out what's the most important thing to work on.
But did any of the steps like deter you? Was there ever a point like during those like 9 months where you're just like, screw this, we're done?
There is a lot of like big obstacles, but I think at the end of the day we had our eye on the prize, and and
that's what we kind of just said, because we were like, okay, like once we, you know, it was Plattsburgh, and then it was like, okay, look, if this falls through, if it doesn't happen, our end goal is to have a store in the States. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, obviously if it's Plattsburgh, that's the one that we're going for. That's the good one. And then I'm like, I even told Shea, like, especially in the first few months, I'm like, you know, I'm so grateful that the store we chose is here. And like everyone that we've met has just been incredibly kind and welcoming. And it does have like the small, like you met Adriana and Joel. Joel came to the CVPH gala with us with his wife, and we're hanging out with Adriana next weekend. Like it's, you know, everyone's so great. And I'm like, you couldn't imagine moving to a better community.
It's a very welcoming place.
Yes. And there is so much to do. So I'm like, you know, you pull out of work and it's like, oh God, like, you know, that was not the best day. But again, that's going to happen in any business, any industry. And then you look up and you see like the mountains and Lake Champlain.
I was
going
to say TJ Maxx sign, but yes.
So beautiful. But yes, also the TJ Maxx sign. I'm like, there's days where I'm like, lunch, okay, I'm going to TJ Maxx. I'm going to have a little mental break.
Again, I've never lived out of this area. But the amount of people that come to the area and just say it's like they're like, it's just different. And like I don't think we take it for granted. I think there's a lot of people that just haven't moved because they like it. And part of me is I've never even had the urge to move away, but I think a lot of knowing where people come in, and it seems like they just validate that the area is good. And people like you, like, you know, imports coming into the area and are new people, it's like, wow, this is really cool. And like, this is different. And, you know, I've taken the validation from many people over the years that have kind of echoed that and said, okay, well, they're from this city and they're from this city. And there's people that are like, we lived in California, then we lived here, then we lived here. And I'm like, well, like, it's better weather, blah, blah, blah. Like, why would you move up here? And then for whatever, I'm like, you don't mind the snow, you don't mind the cold. And they're like, no, it's beautiful. We like this, we like that. So it's amazing the people that pick this area over even places that if you asked me, it'd be like 100% they're picking that area. Like, no, we really like this area.
Every spot's got their own, you know, their own perks. Like where we came from is beautiful. They call it, you mentioned St. John. There's the, you know, there's a couple big rivers in New Brunswick, and we lived in what they called the St. John River Valley. And so, you know, there were some mountains around and the big river, and it's beautiful. And especially in the fall when the leaves turn color and it's harvest season, a lot of farming and stuff like that. So I guess to bring it all around, like this place is obviously very beautiful too. The mountain's a little bigger, and you know, there's the lake there.
It's funny because we'll be like driving around and we're just like always in awe of this place. Like, oh, like that's so beautiful. And the other weekend is like, okay, it's Sunday. Let's take a day trip. Well, okay, in an hour you can be in Montreal, Lake Placid, Burlington. Go a little further, you're in Lake George. Like it's just nice to have, options. And I'm like, it's funny because to us, our kids when we moved, they were like 3 and 1, and then so I'm like, God, like they'll never really know what life in Canada was or in New Brunswick, but I'm like, I wonder if they're going to grow up thinking, because even tonight, you will meet people from here and like, oh, like it's small, there's not much going on. But I'm like, I feel like everyone says that about, their own hometown. Yeah. Yes. And then I'm like, usually people go away for school and then they come back and they realize, wow, it's really pretty. But I'm like, I don't know if what our kids will think of growing up, of the area. We'll still be in awe of it 6 years later.
And just be like,
yeah.
Pittsburghy. Like them.
Even the campus is beautiful with the fountain and Hawkins Hall, the building.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
No, that's where I went to college. So like we didn't really go far. So it was like, and that was the thing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I'm like, I'll just go to Plattsburgh. It's close by. And I stayed at home and I was coaching soccer at the time and it just worked out. But so are you both Irish?
Yes.
So where's
both our moms and dads, all their families are.
So is that how the potato farming started, or no?
Yeah. So the move from Ireland.
Question.
Well, the move from Ireland,
potatoes,
at least for my family, would have been the potato famine.
Yeah.
And then
1850s.
And then they moved in. Yeah, and they came across and actually it's funny. My brother, who's still farming today, he bought a farm from another Brennan, not an immediate relative, but would have been related down the line, but it's actually the home farm of the original Moses Brennan was his name, that came over from Ireland and settled there. So,
oh wow.
Yeah.
So where do you remember where I think you might have told me before.
Well, your Cork County.
Okay.
Mine was Northern Ireland. And I don't know which area. Yeah. Mine was Northern Ireland. I'm like that. Mind you, we did visit Northern Ireland. I never really knew how recent the history was.
Yeah.
Was it you? Someone told, was that you guys?
Yeah.
In the chamber? So what was the difference between Ireland and Northern Ireland? Because Ireland's probably my favorite place on earth.
Oh, love Ireland. Yeah.
Well, just when you get to Northern Ireland, and it's the
it's like the Catholic Protestant.
I'm not a history buff, but there's Catholics and Protestants, and there was the IRA and were the Catholics, and then they were
watch Little Sons of Anarchy.
They were fun.
Grab a history lesson.
Is that what it's based on?
Well, Sons of Anarchy, yeah. The fathers are in Northern Ireland in the IRA, and
it was like a massive civil war, like not too long ago either.
No, into the 90s, I think.
There was like 9 p.m. curfew. There's the wall that's up and the fence that closes.
That's wild.
And there was a tour. So they were called like the Black Cabbie tours. And so they tour you around, and then they were like, there's going to be like, protests going on. Do not take a picture of a cop. If you take a picture of a police officer, they're going to confiscate your phone. And then so we were like, this was 2017 that we were there.
Yeah, it's pretty peaceful there now, I think, but there's still it wasn't that long ago that, still now, cops still close that gate, but.
Even they were talking about like the percentage wise of the police force, like Catholic and Protestant, how it used to be like 90 and 10, and now it's maybe still like 70-30. Like it's still. Yeah, I never knew, I knew that went on. I didn't realize how recent that it was.
Well, my grandpa was the one that came from Ireland. So
cool.
He just passed away a couple of years ago. He was 97. So he was Irish Catholic from County Kerry, Killarney. And it was funny. I don't know if I told you this, but he always considered the flag was green, white, and gold. It wasn't orange because orange was Protestant color.
Okay.
Which I don't know if that's Catholic was green. I don't know the history of the flag, but so he always said it was gold. I'm like, it looks pretty orange to me.
Was he colorblind too?
He was. That's actually how I got my colorblind. So, straight from him. Yep. So, but that was the thing. It was always green, white, and gold because the Protestants were Northern Ireland, and he was didn't really care for Northern Ireland. And I remember. I forgot who it was. Someone had shoes, Reebok shoes that had the English flag on it. That was a no-no. Flag. It was the United Kingdom flag.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Great Britain, whatever the correct term is. But he was Catholic through and through. We always joked he was one step from the Pope, basically, because he Irish guy, didn't drink, very, very, very religious, and it was. But yeah, the Irish heritage is they're, which is crazy because you think about too, they were prosecuted heavily when they came over, and then now it's like being Irish is kind of like a badge of honor now, but like 100 years ago it wasn't, and that was so he kind of came over, I think a little bit later on, probably like somewhere in the early 50s maybe was when he came. He was like my age when he came over, which is crazy considering. I mean, you guys coming like it's the exact same thing as you guys. Like you have such a memory your entire life is Canada, then you come over and now it's like maybe now to whatever it could be just U.S. Which is, I only obviously knew him as a U.S. citizen. So so you guys have been to Ireland how many times? Like recently or just?
I've been.
just
So
one
I did
for me.
study abroad term in Birmingham in the UK.
Okay.
So traveled a lot when I was doing that. That was back in 2011. And then we went in 2017. But we did the whole, like, went down to Cork County, kissed the Blarney Stone, Gift of Gab.
I did, yeah.
And then, like, stayed in Dublin, and then we did a tour of Northern Ireland. So it just kind of we did it in 2 days.
Yeah, it was
It
quick.
was a quick trip.
Definitely have to go back.
Yeah. So you haven't been to County Kerry?
I feel like we drove through there.
That's west of County Cork. They're both in the south. They're the two south.
I think we have. And then, because Galway's quite west, isn't it?
Galway, yes. I believe Galway's on like the Midwest.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, it's
Or
like
Midwest, but
Cliffs
like-
of Moher. I did that one in 2011.
Yes.
Yeah. But we
Is that
did.
is
We
that
went
in
north to
Galway or is
south.
that in Clare?
I think it's in Clare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we went through
I
Galway
love
to get
Ireland
it.
though. It's such a cool.
Just the culture, and it's
Everybody's happy. It's simple. Like
Yeah.
the one thing I noticed because we flew. Did you fly into Dublin or Shannon?
where did we fly? We went from Birmingham and flew. Yeah, we flew to Dublin. Yeah.
But like Shannon's airport was like 30 years behind any airport I've ever been to.
Really?
Like, yeah, you just like show up and it's just older. Like I feel like Ireland is just like still like maybe like the early 90s and just like the way it looked. Well, this was back when I went. So, but it just seemed like everything was just like a step behind or like maybe like a generation behind. Which kind of added to the charm because it was just like very simplistic and everybody was super pumped. You could drink much underage there and nobody cared. And that was like, I just remember going and I was 14 and we went to this like, there was a music and dancing. So it was like Irish dancing and they had like accordions and they had the flutes and they had the guitars and they just like this big, where it was some hotel area. And I remember going to the bar and of course my dad gets a drink and so I'm sitting next to my grandfather. My grandfather does not drink. And of course I was like scared to death to drink in front of my grandfather ever. And I remember at the time we went over and my dad got a drink and I was like, okay, I'll have a pint of Coca-Cola. So the bartender goes and he starts pouring this Coca-Cola and then he turns to me and winks and then goes over and tops off like the last maybe third of the drink with Guinness. And then he hands it to me. Well, the thing is, so I'm 14, never had beer in my life. So I have, 2/3 Coke, 1/3 Guinness. Well, the top head of the Guinness is there.
Right.
So it looks like Guinness. So I remember.
Might as well just did the whole thing, huh?
So I end up walking back to my seat and my dad catches it. And the first thing he tells me is don't tell your mother. So I remember throwing my dad under the bus now. So I remember walking back with
Trying to hide the top.
basically covering the top, almost like I had a hot mug in my hand. I didn't want to burn, so I had like it braced at the top, so you couldn't. I'm basically hiding the head of the beer. And I remember going in. I went to sip it. It was the worst tasting thing I've ever had in my life, and I had to put it down like between my feet so nobody saw it. And I might have taken like 2 sips of the whole thing, and I couldn't drink it. So this guy, the bartender, thought he was doing me a favor. I'm like, dude, I'm 14.
Pour me another Coke.
Like Guinness does not touch the palate the way you think it does. So
Do you drink it now?
I don't mind Guinness. Yeah, it's not my go-to, but I'll drink it like St. Patty's Day and stuff. Irish Card Bomb. I mean, I'll definitely drink it. But it's and when you're in Ireland too, it just tastes better. Like,
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. It's like
Something about it.
it's a fresher pour, I guess. But no, Ireland's great. Yeah, by far my favorite place on earth. I got to bring, like I said, I want to bring the kids back and all.
How many
that
times
stuff.
have you been?
Just twice, like when I was a
Nice.
kid. But it was like same thing. We had family over there, so you
Yeah.
basically stayed
Oh,
with family,
nice.
and you just kind of hung out with them for 2 weeks, and then
Yeah.
you came home, and it was amazing. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff. But anything else you guys want to plug, talk about? Not to cut you off. This was fun, but I'm just
Yeah, we had a
Yeah.
great time.
I don't know.
You had some great questions.
I was gonna say I can rattle off a bunch more, but I want to be respectful of your time. But I guess for like I said, we can wrap it up there. But do you guys have any anything you want to plug? Obviously, where you're at, how they can get a hold of you guys? Any, I guess, specials, things?
BrennanBuickGMC.com.
Yeah, BrennanBuickGMC.com. We're at 383 Route 3. And we were talking earlier about, or Annie mentioned people coming in, lots of people knocking on our door to advertise. And we've been kind of putting it off for a while just because we were a little bit, taking over different processes and stuff. And we were a little bit short staffed, but now we're getting to a point where we can start doing a little more prepared for the traffic coming in, I guess. So we'll be getting our name out there a little more, and staff is growing, and we're having a great time. We're lucky to have the staff we do, some great staff, and if you're in the market for a car or need service or financing, anything, come on down.
Advice, anything.
That's good. No, and I've only talked to them now probably maybe 2 hours of my life, but you guys are great people. I like you.
Thank you.
Maybe, like I said, if I show up to Rotary, I'll probably see you guys.
There you go. Yeah.
That'll be my
Or an
incentive.
after
I go
hours.
next week. Maybe I'll sit with you guys. So, I think it's great. Hopefully, you guys decide to stay here for a little bit of time.
Oh, that's the plan.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're raising the kids here
Yep.
and
That's
ready
cool.
to go. Already looked at
That's
the
always something I like is when people
leagues.
want to move in and are the
Yeah.
kids playing? Well, no.
No, they're
they're
almost 2 and 4 now, I guess. Yeah,
Have they been on
one and
skates
a
yet?
half, 3.5. No, we did during COVID. You built like a
Yeah,
little
he was like
rink
2.
in the
He wasn't really
backyard.
into
It was more
but-
for Shea than for Pierce, but
Wait, what's the
that's,
kids' names?
Pierce, and then so Pierce is my mom's maiden name.
Okay.
And then Lachlan is the baby.
Lachlan's the youngest, yeah.
Lachlan. That's
Little
cool.
Lockie, yeah.
Is that what you call him, Lockie?
Yeah, Lockie do. So funny. So ironically, at the daycare, there's a girl whose last name is Pierce, and then there's another little kid, and they're not related, and their last name is Pierce. And the town we left, we never really heard of anyone with the name Pierce, but we haven't heard any Lachlans yet.
Yeah, I've
That was
never
our.
heard a name.
It's
Lachlan.
technically Scottish, but we say it's Irish.
It's good
So
enough.
it's like,
We can
yeah, we
roll
want
it.
to look for an Irish name.
That's I was gonna say, like my name was Galen, which was like the Gaelic. My
Yeah.
name is Greek, and they ended up they found it like the name, but they turned it into like a Gaelic spelling.
Mm-hmm.
So when we ended up having the kids, I was like, it'd be cool to have all Irish names. Then we kind of quickly, my wife has no Irish in her, so we ended up getting to the point where we just like names that were kind of cool. My I don't know, Penn's English, Cruz, I think made up, I don't know, and then Oakland maybe sound.
Those are cute names.
Yeah, they're
that's
great.
cool.
It's kind of like you said, Lachlan, but it sounds like my daughter's name is Oakland. So but it's just kind of like a weird. I mean, maybe that's the most Irish sounding Oakland, but I don't think it is. So
Irish names are hard.
Yeah.
just call
You
it
think they're easy when you actually have to pick a name.
Ackland or something. I don't know. Try to put the apostrophe.
I was gonna
in
say
there.
apostrophe. O'Loughlin. One of them.
Lachlan, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
But
if nothing else, 317. He's Irish, so one day a year.
That's his birthday?
No, I'm just saying for you. No, I'm saying.
Oh, for-
everyone's-
okay.
No, my son's
Well, that
birthday.
was, I'm like,
My son's birthday's Christmas Day.
Oh,
no
wow.
way.
Yeah, so that's our.
He's December 28th of 89, so he had 3 days in the 80s.
3 days, 3 wild days.
You know how many
yeah.
days I had in the 80s? 7.
No way.
24th.
24th.
Wow.
My brother's the 26th. December.
I was gonna say of 89. No, that'd be real Irish twins. Yeah, I don't even know what they call that. Yeah, it's like they were twins that came 3 days apart. December 24th, 89.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Nice.
that's
Awesome.
That's it. 7 days. So
Christmas Eve.
my wife's always like, "You were born in that?" I'm like, "No, I was born in the 80s."
Yeah.
I remember the 80s well. It was a cold winter, but
But no, that St. Patrick's Day breakfast, that was one of the things, because that March, so we had been here 4 or 5 months maybe. And I'm like, it's great. Just so, of course, obviously we love St. Patrick's Day, the green and the Guinness and all the fun stuff. But I'm like, it's so nice to, to go to a community and celebrate St. Patrick's Day and feel like we're at home when we just moved 8 hours away from home.
that's a massive event too. I mean, as you
It's
can tell, I've been
incredible,
doing it
yeah.
for like what 50-something years or something like that. So basically, that business expo. Did you go to the dinner this year? Which is
No,
in
that was
January.
in,
got
that
pushed-
was kind of like was that December?
that actually no. That
We
was
had like just got started or
no.
something.
It ended up becoming like a week before the Irish breakfast. 'Cause They
Okay.
had to delay it because of COVID, but that's a really good one if you guys can go next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then those are pretty much your big ones. They have another one like Taste of the North Country, Woman in
Yes.
Business. That's
Yep.
another big one. So there's a
Get those
handful.
on the calendar.
If you ever watch, Adriana came on this and we were going back and forth, and she was going through every single thing, and she's like, well, I got this event and this event, and then I have, and she goes, oh, we have after hours every month, and then I have this training and then this training. I'm like, how many events do you plan at one time? And it was like 5 or 6 because you're thinking you're months in advance.
Yeah.
Like, how do you keep all this?
A lot of balls in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I plan like one thing, it takes me all year. And I'm still screwing it up. So, but Shea and Annie, I appreciate you guys coming on and accepting the invite. And you guys,
Thank you for having us.
yeah,
this is
Yeah,
exciting.
this is awesome.
This was great. Share it, send it all up to Canada. Try to get our Canadian
Yes.
viewership
Will do.
numbers
We
up.
love
Yeah.
any chance to talk about Plattsburgh.
That's good. I was like, talk about Canada maybe, but that's all right. You got to get one of those dual flags in your yard. Do you have one?
No, we actually have an American flag in our yard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're full blown now.
We're jumping in.
Yeah.
Oh, you drank the Kool-Aid?
Yeah. Oh yeah, my parents came for 4th of July and we were all decked out. We had a great day.
Them too?
Yeah.
Isn't
We'll
it like
get
a
them.
couple days after Canada Day? Is what?
Yeah,
July
Canada
1st?
Day's July 1st. Yeah.
Is that the same, but probably like a little bit lesser?
Like it is the
'Cause
same.
US
You have the fireworks and the barbecue, but US is
U.S.
like,
does everything a little bigger.
yeah.
I mean, U.S. The
You're
4th
so
of July
excited.
is the most obnoxious holiday. And I love it. It's so great. It's also like the start of summer for us. But all right, everybody, that's episode 197. Again, Shea and Annie Brennan, Buick GMC, Route 3, and just catch them everywhere because they're everywhere. Player down the chicken coop playing hockey. So again, episode 197, Galen Trombley Show. We're out. Thanks for listening to the Galen Trombley Show. If you want to reach me, you can go on Facebook at Galen Trombley, on Instagram at Galen Trombley, and on YouTube at Galen Trombley. The spelling, GaelanTrombley.